let's talk about some of this East African story, and we're anchoring that on the week-long World Bank and IMF spring meetings for this year, which ended last week with quite a pile of thought-provoking issues for developing African economies. Joining me to review the takeaways of the summit for SSA is Satchu, the founder and CEO at Rich Frontiers Management based in Nairobi, Kenya. Good evening, Ali. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, boss.
Do you think key issues impacting Africa were well covered or addressed by the just concluded spring meetings?
Yes, I thought the IMF and the World Bank gave a lot of thought and time to Africa in that meeting, in both meetings. What I did find overall was I thought the IMF in particular were over-optimistic about the vaccine story. And essentially, I think were over-optimistic about the speed and the violence of the rebound they were projecting for the global economy. I think in Africa as well, a little bit too optimistic. This tends to be the IMF's stance. The World Bank, I thought, were a little bit more practical. Look, there's some serious challenges out there. We're emerging from the pandemic. We've got to see how we deal with our debt. But obviously, all these economies want to grow a lot more quickly. And I'm just not sure that that growth is going to materialize.
Well, in terms of the key issues that you think Africa should focus on, are there challenges that were raised the spring meetings that you think Africa's policymakers should focus on and very quickly? If you bring it down to just 1, 2, 3.
We do.
I think, the main issue is how Africa deals with debt. Both the IMF and the World Bank are doing some heavy lifting now. Here in Kenya, we can see pretty substantial intervention by the IMF and the World Bank. But essentially, it's going to be about the debt. I think prior to this meeting, I was listening to the African Development Bank economic outlook. And in that, President Adesina spoke about something he described as hamburger debt. And I think the big concern for me is our governments have borrowed a great deal of money. But really, if you look at it, they've misspent it woefully. And I think, the question comes now, we've got the same people in charge. Are they just going to repeat the whole thing again, overborrow, overspend, and basically not generate sufficient returns? So that's one big concern of mine. The next concern is, when I look at revenue to debt service ratios, that worries me. And then my overall concern is really, with the population expansion in South Africa, in Nigeria, in vast swathes of sub-Saharan Africa, our average citizen has been getting worse off year after year. And I don't see what our plan is to address that, because that is a really important issue. We keep talking about a demographic dividend, but really it's going to be a demographic time bomb unless we deal with that. So I thought those were the main concerns for me. And I'm just not sure that we've actually, we're addressing it. We're talking about it, but have we got a plan? Where's the beef for that plan?
Where is the plan, for example, Ali, for the Kenyatta's administration in Nairobi? Debts on one side and fresh IMF World Bank loans on the other hand. What's your take? How should Kenya deal with it?
So, we've seen a quadrupling of debt during this administration. This is now their second term. We've seen, this very big investment in the railway, which is going to produce a negative return on investment for the foreseeable future. The advantage for Kenya right now is geoeconomically, the multilateral institutions want to support Kenya. We've got a lot of uncertainty to the north in Ethiopia, as you know. And I think, Kenya is a pivot state in this East African region. So the IMF and the World Bank have calculated, look, we know it's tough and we'll come in and we'll support Kenya at this point in time. But, if you look at the situation that's unfolding, it's only going to get more and more difficult for the average citizen. You were talking about the fuel price hike, which has been reversed. I remember Goodluck Jonathan trying to put up fuel prices and the problems that happened in Nigeria then. And I think Kenya was facing the same problem. It could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. So they're holding that price down, but we're seeing inflation. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's just interesting you're touching on the very highly inflammable issue here. We were just planning to have you on the show. The whole idea was that fuel prices were going up. Then the KEPRA suddenly came up and said, look, we're holding petrol prices for Kenya at the March 2021 price levels. What changed? What dilemma do you think the government faced here?
Well, I think for the first time, the government is showing some situational awareness. I mean, they've been, quite deluded talking about BBI during the pandemic. That's been their core focus. But we've had a pandemic. People have lost their livelihoods. And really, we know all over the world, when you start putting up fuel prices, it can be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So I think the government's blinked. More than 50% of the price of fuel, probably about 56% is tax. So the government's got a bit of room for maneuver. But remember that the IMF package that the government signed on to wants VAT on fuel to go up to 16%, which would be a substantial increase in the price of fuel. I think that's one of the conditions precedent in that loan deal with the IMF. And really, all the taxes, the heavy lifting is going to be done by VAT. So it's a balancing act. And I think the administration probably thought, look, everyone's having a very tough time. We try and stick them with another big hike in the price of fuel, and there could be all sorts of problems.
Okay, let's leave it there for tonight. Satchu, the founder and CEO at Reach Frontiers Management. Yeah, you need to get to bed. Thank you so much this night. Thank you in Nairobi. Thank you very much for speaking with us from East Africa on those latest issues, in particular the price of fuel.